Welcome back, Flyboys.
Sicario is moving west, ladies and gents. Information coming out of country has been spotty, but, well, let's just say there's a demand for people of our pedigree. The Federation's been eyeing a takeover of Cascadia's resources for years, as far as I remember. And it seems the Cascadians weren't going to take it lying down, based on what info has been leaked out. For those of you who don't know, Cascadia is a nation along North America's western seaboard, one of the largest on Earth, and one of the most prosperous due to its abundant natural resources and geothermal energy deposits. I've never been, but I hear it's beautiful. A country with limitless energy at its fingertips. I know some of us who were born out here in the periphery can't even imagine it, but I'm sure this hits closer to home for some of you. Moving along. There's a communications blackout both in and out of the country. And as far as the international news goes, nothing is going on except a few riots. Based on the mercenary networks, however, that is a complete lie. A full-blown conflict is proceeding. We've reached out and were given a rendezvous by a Cascadian group called the Independence Force, the main anti-Federation group recognized by the national government. I presume the Federation has the borders on lockdown to stop people like us from coming in. So stay on our toes. If we get found out by a patrol, we'll send one of our flights off to take care of them.
Sicario is moving northwest towards a rendezvous point set by Cascadia's Independence Force. We don't expect any heavy resistance given our route of ingress, however, each of our fighter groups will be pulling shifts to preserve fuel and ammo. Hitman Team, you will be responsible for the last leg of the journey, which will take us over into Cascadia proper. Be prepared to intercept border patrols.
I know some of you might not be too enthused to be fighting the Federation, so I invite you to leave with what you have of your contract. You'd only slow us down.
So here we are with our second mission, and we're taking another trainer out.
All Sicario elements maintain bearing. We have interceptors coming up the rear. Hitman and AU Gunsel planes. Vector to intercept before they get close.
Hitman 1, take point. We'll play backup.
This is Hitman 2. Weapon safeties are off. Let's see how much Federation planes pay out.
Is our targeting system updated to lock on the Federation signatures?
I've had them programmed long before we thought about coming this way. Hitman team, you are cleared to engage. Alright, Monarch. I don't want to be the first to commit high treason, so on you. As of yesterday, all inbound flights...
We have a lovely view of essentially what the game can be, having a lot of planes in the air, contrails here and there, and just looking good.
Copy. Requesting target bearing. Target to the left, weapons free.
This might actually be worth my time.
Looks like it's true. The Federation is weapons free in Cascadia. Even when we crossed into other Federation states illegally, they didn't dare open fire on us like this.
We were expecting freelancers and smugglers, not an actual fighting group. What gives?
We're sending an envoy up to Wire. Stand by.
It doesn't always come up, but it's nice to have all this incidental conversations between, well, enemies, but also the friendly input as well. As people have mentioned in the thread several times, there's a mod to make it so that Prez is always available, so it's on, and yeah, it makes it easier to show off a lot of the other planes, such as this one, and have her tag along. I should note, though, that there seems to be like a small issue with it, where you'll still get Galaxy telling you that you lock on. Normally he does that when Prez isn't around.
Positive tone.
I've got a good tone.
There's a few modes that or a few things I didn't show off in the previous video. Essentially, There's a way to track your camera. So if you hold the... Well, for me it's a triangle button because I use a PS3 controller, but if you hold up the up button, target button, you'll essentially lock your camera on whoever you're targeting at the moment, and if you hold the missile button, you have a track camera that follows until it explodes. It's small features like that that just help it round out as a nice combat or air combat game.
Enemy down. Good job.
Although, as it's obvious, it's not necessarily a simulator level.
That Fighter 3 is feisty. Adjust appropriately.
There's a few interesting things I'd love to be able to check out on this map. However, we just don't have the opportunity, really. Maps are large and colorful for the most part.
You're engaged with a private security corporation called Sicario. We need specifics, Command. It's a smaller-sized mercenary group that specializes in aerial operations. Active along the country. This is still combing through the records, but it's thin. We're supposed to deal with them. Send reinforcements. Copy. Stand by.
These guys are so inexperienced that they even have their AWACS in basically the front line. As I was speaking with the map, however, there's a couple tower structures, but we don't get to see what they actually are. Perhaps it'll be something to show off in later episodes. I think sometimes Prez and Galaxy stack up on their lines, and that's why sometimes Prez will shout things at not exactly the right time. Honestly, though, it's not really much of a complaint because whenever I'm playing this game, I don't really pay attention to it. Not because it's not useful information, it's just everything is very tense. And here's where Project Wingman probably has a slight failing. It doesn't really do well in its intro to destroyers and other large aircraft. Now, unless I'm mixing it up with something else, I'm fairly certain that these destroyers and large wing aircraft function by the use of cordium, the miracle solution and essentially limitless power fuel.
Warning, missile inbound.
It's hard to really tell without going through a lot of wiki entries that I'm not really going to do right now. But essentially, when you look at the engines that are on the aircraft and also just how large and improbable the aircraft is, it makes sense.
Guns.
And again, it doesn't really do much to intro it, both its function or why it's dangerous. Maybe having an extra allied plane that gets shot down by it, it'd be useful at the very least. Speaking of aircraft that get shot down, there's a mention that Blue Squadron was taken out. That's actually the units that we took out at the start of the mission. Unfortunately, some of these units go kind of unnamed or unrecognized,
You got any idea what the Federation is doing in Cascadia?
so it's hard to catalog them.
Hey, we've got a contact.
To approaching unidentified aircraft. When the night comes, how do we return home? By midnight's light.
Similar to Ace Combat, Project Wingman thought it'd be interesting or maybe fun. I'm not quite sure if it had landing and takeoff sequences. I'm just going to show one of each just so you get an idea as to how these perform. Otherwise, I'm just going to cut the footage. I'll still fly them because I'm a nerd and I want to fly them, but yeah, there's not much of a point to show these as often as they show up. There is perhaps 1 or 2 times that it's important to the story, so those will get shown just because there's character dialogue, but in general, nothing really happens. And you can tell that the game isn't really meant for it because of just kind of how janky it is. The camera clips through because it's not meant to be so low to the ground, and even the model doesn't really sit correctly. It's very similar to like DCS.
Thanks to your efforts, Sicario was able to rendezvous with our contact and refuel for the mission ahead. You'll be heading back out within the hour, so stay on your toes, or else your time in Cascadia will be short-lived.